So thanks a lot for the introduction, Christina. I'm very excited to be here with you today because I completely agree. In today's world, it's not possible to live without digitalization. But of course, digitalization has its own issues as well, because to really use the full potential of it, you really have to understand it and also be aware for what it works and what it doesn't work. So happy to be the first one in the virtual capacity building of ENACT, and I hope to bring all of you at least a couple of practical ideas and solutions what you can implement in your life. Who am I? My name is Catalina Bardewyck. I'm not an IT consultant. I'm not a digital expert per se, but I have over 20 years of practical experience in consulting, but then especially in the agricultural area, mainly in distribution and production of agrochemical inputs, not only in multinationals in Europe and also abroad, but also in family-owned SMEs. So, of course, I have then more the practitioner's hat on and know where the challenges with digitalization lie in different environments. Additionally, I did quite some work with startups in Switzerland and Austria, and so I'm very excited to be here with you. So perhaps connecting or reconnecting to ENACT and also reconnecting to setting the expectation. I mean, we are quite in homogeneous group in the agri-food social economy because we're dealing with different players, be it social enterprises, cooperatives, associations, foundations, or public authorities. We're dealing with really different sizes of companies, from one person micro enterprises to regional networks. And each of us also has a different step in the value chain he or she possesses. So it's not very surprising that we also deal with different capabilities in digitalization. And ENACT did this research among the group, where are we in terms of capabilities? And you see that from the SMEs in AgriFood in those 4 countries, the majority is somewhere between emerging digital capabilities and traditionalists. So if the agri-food social economy is not a homogeneous group, then I think it's quite clear that digitalization can't be a blueprint neither. And that is what I only want you to keep in mind while we are having this training. So we talked about emerging traditionalists and leaders. So what is it really? And the emerging organizations are organizations which have experience with digitalization, which are digitally curious, but who are what I would call structurally fragile. That means tools are there, tools are not necessarily used consistently, data practices and cybersecurity is rather on the weak end. And typically, but not always, that are smaller organizations. The traditionalists, which is the largest group nowadays, is the one who are really using digital tools, who are having the digital tools really incorporated into their daily practice, but where they really have still some improvement potential is cybersecurity, GDPR, e-commerce, and tool integration. And then, of course, we have some leaders also amongst us, and that are often the ones who are mentors for the others and are kind of capacity builders. And they really want to share their knowledge amongst the community, look to learn more from peers and optimize also the governance. And I think Lisa prepared a small survey just to see where you are currently, so that we can also see whether the audience maps a little bit the survey. So Lisa, off you go.
Yeah, please. I just send a link in the chat. I will all please you to fill it out, and I will send you the outcomes in around 2 minutes. So please fill it out now.
Perfect. And while you're filling it out, I think I can talk a little bit more. It's not that complicated. I mean, I think what really combines all the three segments is that the access to technology is not the bottleneck, be it infrastructure, be it devices, be it software. But what is often a bottleneck in organizations, and where organizations such as the leaders spend quite a lot of time, is in the capability building. So knowing what to do with the digital tools consistently and securely. And that is why, for me, the focus area is also addressing, of course, more the needs of emerging organization, building the foundations and the traditionalists. So Lisa, do we already have some results in?
Yes. So I'm gonna make a screenshot and send it to you in. So that's what we have.
Just tell us, because for me it's difficult with email at the moment.
No, sure. So we have 3 persons who said they're at the first step, 2 persons who said that there's some experience, and 4 persons who said they're intermediate. And it just there just came a new answer, so nobody's higher than 3.
Okay, so I think then hopefully we have lots of topics for you, because we really said for us the focus is on the emerging organizations or emerging digital capabilities, with an excursion towards e-commerce, tool integration, and cybersecurity. So perfect. What we will touch upon today is first digital basics and prerequisites. Then we go into how to define a problem and how we use that problem definition to really say what do we require from a digital tool. Then we look at existing tools, which everybody of you will know, and see what we can do more with it. Explore some advanced tools, go into supply chain needs if time permits it. Otherwise, we skip that, and you will have that in the deck, which will distribute it to you. And then lastly, we go into cyber security and have a wrap up and some open questions. So that's the plan, quite an ambitious plan for 1 hour and 50 minutes, but I'm sure we will manage it. I hope you understand that given the big kind of content, we will not do so much in groups in this session, but I think in the later session you will have more breakouts. A couple of rules for getting the most out of it today. I think it's always great to put the camera on. That gives a little bit more proximity and closeness to each other. That makes it also easier to use the chat as a way to interact with each other. So thanks for that. Put your computer and your mobile on mute, but feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question, because I think your input and your questions are important. So use the chat freely for questions and remarks. If you want to speak, raise your hand and then you will be able to speak. And our administrator of the chat, who will always kind of also say a little bit what is happening there, will be Lisa. So thanks for your help, Lisa. And what I really want you to get out of that is 1 or 2 steps that are realistic and valuable for your specific situation. So that would be my end goal. Before we then really start with the content, any questions from your side? No? Perfect. Then we start. So we start with the basic and the prerequisites. And for me, digitalization basically is a three-wave model. So, and those three waves have an increasing level of complexity. So what is easiest being done is using digital tools for operational efficiencies. And operational efficiencies can start with yourself, be then within your team or the whole organization, but it's a closed kind of circle. And operational efficiencies can be lowering cost, increasing speed, and time. But it can be also supporting decisions and enabling better risk management. And what I always like about operational efficiencies when you use new tools is that usually it's limited time and investment it requires, and the payoffs and the results is something what you see very quickly. So that's also ideal to build commitment from the organization in terms of using digital tools. The second category, which of course is the, I would say, more sexy category, is using digital tools and solutions to enable innovation. And yeah, enabling innovation is for me using digitalization to change how you reach the market, how you serve your customers, or create value by new solutions, new business models. But that, of course, is already way more tricky. It enables really more time, more thoughts, and more investments. But the impact can be quite significant. And last but not least, so what are examples for that? A typical example would be how to cut out the middleman by selling directly to consumers via online platforms or your own web shop. So digitalization can enable it, but of course you can't create demand where no demand exists, so you have to do your share as well. Or another example would be going into new markets without being physically present there. So it's all digital export, e-commerce as well, but you have to make sure that customers find you. The last step, and I would say the most advanced step, is the cooperation. And cooperation, of course, is something important in the social economy. But I nevertheless would say that for me, that is the most complex, because cooperation through digitalization means that you need shared data, digital infrastructure to act together. And that only can work if you have not only trust and alignments, but you need shared standards. Otherwise, that doesn't work. So for me, the simple thing is start small and start where you kind of really get impacts, and that's the operational efficiencies. You will automatically move on the curve after getting more acquainted with digital solutions. Perhaps another short poll from Lisa. So where are you currently, in which buckets with digital solutions, and what is most relevant for you? So 2 questions for you to answer. Okay. Do we already have some results?
Yes, we do have. For the first question, most of the people said operational effectiveness, and 2 persons said innovation and 2 cooperation. And for the second question, most people said innovation, 2 persons cooperation, and 1 person operational effectiveness.
Okay, so what I would ask you also in the course of the presentation, or perhaps today, also share your examples, how you use it, and that you can do simply by raising the hand. Perhaps with innovation, do we have a volunteer? Not yet? Yeah, I guess that's too early. So we will wait a little bit. I'm sure by the end of the presentation, there will be more appetite in sharing. If you don't want to speak, it's more than natural. Then use the chat to just share the ideas. It's always a great method. Good. So then let's continue. There are a couple of prerequisites for digitalization because you don't start with tools. Otherwise, you will end up with very complex tools which are completely overpriced and which in the end won't work with your processes and your structure. The first thing really is know exactly what you need and be able to also write it down. Otherwise, you won't get out of the whole thing what you need. The second bit is know your processes well. Those processes can not only exist in your head, they must be known throughout the organization. Then be sure that you have good data quality and a way to govern the data. Without that, digitalization won't work. And last but not least, then make sure that you invest in capability build up and change management. And with that, you also have to make sure that you have budget and time available to really do it. And those 5 steps or those 5 things you have to really consider when you're moving towards digitalization. Because shockingly, today, 85% of artificial intelligence projects fail because one of the things is not clearly mapped out and that we surely want to avoid. Apart from budget and times, always make sure that you have defined KPIs for your project or your digitalization effort and that you measure whether you're successful or not so that you quickly can react to that. If we go into So what I want to do is go deeper into processes, data, and governance capabilities and change management and a little bit around budget and time, because knowing what you need, we will do later with the exercise. So why does process awareness matter? Because it's really the foundation of every digital step. Because in the end, digitalization improves processes. It doesn't replace real work. It doesn't replace you or me or any of our colleagues. And there are a couple of easy examples. A farmer who does not know when to harvest gains nothing from an app that tracks harvest data. It's completely irrelevant. If you are a logistic company and you have no defined delivery routes, but it's always a matter of how do I feel today or what kind of pops up as a first, you can't optimize those delivery routes with software. So a digital tool always needs processes as a base, and those processes should be formal, shouldn't be implicit, and should be documented. And that is before any digitalization, please formalize your processes and create process awareness in your organization. I know it's nothing what people are completely fond of, but it's the basis which needs to happen. The second one is data and data governance. Digital solutions need good data because without clean, consistent, and uniquely identifiable data, digital tools cannot communicate with each other, track, or report correctly. And data quality is for sure not a problem only for SMEs. It's a problem for every organization. I, for example, worked in a SME with 250 employees, incorporated in a bigger group with over 2,000 employees. And for us, for example, the implementation of digital tools for CSRD compliance was a major issue because there were not only differences in data structure and data convention within our organization, but imagine how it was with 7 other businesses in the group. So it's common. Governance routines for data should be a must, and if you are a bigger and more complex organization, you should have a central data platform to really get everything together. And the problem is, if you have heterogenic data sources and communication, it will amplify from one step to the value chain to the next one. It's a little bit like, in German, it's Deutsche Post. I think otherwise it's called Chinese Whisper, the game where you have a sentence, you tell it to one person, and then the person has to tell it to the next person and the next person and next person. At the end, you have something completely different from what the original phrase was. So after processes, it's important to get basic data standards and governance in-house clean and focus really on the must-haves you need for your digital solutions. Collaboration across the value chain is, for me, as I said, only the second step, and only works if there's a common taxonomy and open and secure data. So real life examples for data problems are, for example, inconsistent naming for product suppliers and customers. So we can have the same product with multiple names, zero system can consolidate it. For example, an Austrian vegetable producer has an inventory app, but the problem is he has in his or paper records 4 different names for the courgettes. It's a courgette, it's a zucchini bio, it's a bio zucchini. And so there's no way to really consolidating stock figures. And so the problem was not the app, but it was data. And by just agreeing on a single product name and adding a simple internal code, everything worked out perfectly. So with that, we covered already the second part, that you need unique identifiers for customers, for products, for suppliers, and you should avoid format mismatches. I think the mostly underrated thing in the whole digital transformation is the capability build up. Only if you know how to use tools and what tools can do, you will get results. Otherwise, not. And nobody will start perfectly. It's a learning process and everybody has a different speed. But if you plan for digitalization, make sure that you have enough time figured out for capability build up, but also for change management, because digitalization changes often how we work, who's responsible for what, and what our roles are. And with that, it's not only kind of important to teach people to use digital tools, but also it's also important that they feel comfortable with the changes and know what the changes really entail. So what I strongly advise is digital solutions have to be defined from the top. It can't be that within an organization there's a digital tool creep, like one kind of department is deciding for one, the other one is doing something different. It's better to have 2-3 tools and then really use it consistently throughout the organization. You really have to invest in basic digital literacy. For example, at my former employer, we had all the tools you could imagine. But what is the use of, for example, Teams and all the things you can do with Teams if only 2% of the organization at the most know the full potential and 10 to 15% of the organization still don't want to use it because they feel more comfortable with the old way of doing it? And that's why it's also important to have persons within the organization who are more or less the digital champion. So for sure, make somebody carrying this hat, and it's even better if he doesn't have to be alone. For example, we did a small pilot group from different functions or different parts of the business, where we just exchange once a week what worked, what didn't work, how we use digital tools, because then we could also evaluate before really buying something completely. Does it make sense for us? Does it not? What do we have to make sure in capability build up? And I know in smaller organizations it's difficult, but even if you have 10, 15 people, 2 people should at least try it out and learn from each other. And then there are plenty of peers and advisory bodies which can help you in the capacity build up, and ACT is, for example, one. And there's always the saying, I don't have the IT budget, I don't have the time for digital solutions, I don't have the IT expertise. It's a little bit what Christina said before, we cannot not digitalize. It's not possible anymore. So in the end, staying analog will empty your pockets, digitalization will not. And what we focus on today is really tools which are economically viable. That means that they have a limited monthly subscription fee of are free of charge. Tools that are really easy to test, and tools which are off the shelf. And that is also something I want to say. Most often we tend to overcomplicate things and adjust and also customize tools. That is really not the way to go. Make it easier, use tools which are available. With that, it's also way better to integrate it with other systems later. And so if we look at different integrations levels, then for digitalization, then it's really from papers and silos to first digital tools being used, which are used isolated and not interconnected, to then connected within the organization towards then integrated systems or interconnected throughout the value chain. And I think if we can get in the SME sector already to level 2 in the next 1 or 2 years, we are really good. Level 3 and level 4 will happen automatically thereafter. It's a step-by-step approach. So, any questions to the basics? Perfect. So you saw that I spared one thing, which was basically going from problem to the requirement, which was the first step of the 5 prerequisites. And why did I do that? Because I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that. So, as I said, an SME can say that we need a system, but will end up with a wrong or overpriced tool if it not is able to really state what the problem is, what happens because of the problem, and what they really need. It's a little bit like employing a consultant. If you don't brief him really well, then you don't get out of what you want neither. So I think before looking at tools, always remember those 3 steps. What is my problem? So what is costing me time, money, or stress, and how often per week? And an example could be every Friday I spend 3 hours retyping paper orders into Excel. What is the consequence? So what happens as a result? What can I not do because of that? And what do I need? So what result should a tool deliver? And that is something what you can practice, where you could also use digital tools to help you refining that, for example, ChatGPT. And what I would like you to now do is just each of you think for 3 to 5 minutes about one concrete problems of you and try to use those 3 steps. And the one who feels comfortable, it would be great if you could type it in the chat. If you don't have the 3 steps, just type your problem into that. And think broadly, because digital solutions can help you in any part of the business. It can help you with the daily operations, with the productions. It can help you with central functions like finance, HR, or legal. It can help you in the marketing and communication. It can help you in the sales and planning. So just whatever area it is, pick one and try to formulate what the precise problem is. And digital solutions are really most valuable if you think about something which costs you a lot of time and which is of no strategic importance or little strategic importance. That is, I would say, really the sweet spot for digital solutions, especially in the area of operational efficiencies. Of course, digital solutions can be supporting, but there the human is leading also in the area of tasks which are costing a lot of time but are of strategic relevance, or as a brainstorming partner, for example, for highly strategic tasks. And with that, I think I will just be quiet and leave you 1 or 2 minutes for thinking further. So do we already have a few first problems in the chat? Nothing yet?
Nothing yet.
Okay, Then we just sorry. So sorry for that. I was trying to look in the chat, but then we start with a couple of examples, and I can start with one, and perhaps Christina wants to add one, or Lisa, or some of the others. So I have a problem which is not necessarily yeah, it's also a lot of time, but it's quite a bit of money, because, or money I don't have, because in the end I need to do some advertisement in social media, but also around personalized communications, etc. And I really can't afford advertising agencies. Not afforded from the budget, not afforded from the time. And what happens as a result is that I have limited visibility for my business. Yeah? And what I concretely need is basically a digital assistant for drafting quick advertisement, so that I can communicate them cost efficiently directly to the customer, or via social media. So that would be my definition of a problem, for example. Does anybody else want to now get into his problem?
And maybe I can translate or explain something that I've heard from companies that we've been talking to. So it's not mine specifically, but I can also share this. That was a concern in one of the sessions that we had. And it was especially on the traceability slash. So we had, for example, one company that had an automatic, let's say, website who could, clients who could buy. So the orders were kind of automatized and through e-commerce platforms or websites and so on. But at the same time, he had to call like by phone every time to the, how can I say, like the storage place next to the field to check if there was any availability of the product. And this was time consuming and not efficient at all. So they wanted to find a way to connect these two kind of places and systems, and see and just or offer what they had in stock and control automatically how many they had left in the storage place, and then how many were ordered through the platform or the website. So this was a communication through the different tools, and this was also one of the things that they wanted to solve or find a solution, because it was very time consuming. The phone bill was super expensive at the time. So this was one of their problems, for example.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Anybody else wanting to go?
If there is nobody else who wants to share, I can just share our weekly problem with all those chat channels. And as we have different clients, and some use Trello and others use WhatsApp and others Signal and good old school email, we use a lot of time just to coordinate all those communication channels and trying to find out when to meet whom and how to coordinate all that, because meanwhile you're typing stuff into your calendar on other places, there is already new dates coming up and stuff. So this is quite cumbersome, and we know that there are solutions where you could have a portal where all those different apps go in and somehow magically give you a nice calendar, but we haven't done it yet. So it costs us quite a lot of time, to be honest.
Yeah. And then that is the interesting thing. There are solutions out there, and they are also not so complicated, but one needs to invest an hour time or 1.5 or 2 to figure it a little bit out, and also then to try it out. I know it from my husband. He is a advisor and works with 4 different organizations with 4 different calendars. And I think I told him already 4 times how he can integrate them all into one, because they are also, of course, with different emails accounts then. So that's the difficulty. I think we haven't done it yet because he's so busy that he doesn't have time to just sit down and let me guide him. But I think that is also one of the important things. If you have something which is really bothering you and costing you a lot of time, sit down, make time for it, to invest half a day, because you will save so much time thereafter. It's really worth it. So always consider this 3-step process. You can also try then to refine your answers with, for example, a large language model or a chatbot, and see what comes out of it. But it really is the basis for then looking into what do I need, what is the right tool for me. So what are common traps? So we need an app. I hear it so often that companies want to have an app, but why do you want an app? For which specific problem? Do you really need it, or is it just because everybody else has an app? What should it actually do? And does it really make a difference if you don't have it today? So challenge you a little bit. Then we want to become more digital. Great, but where do you want to become digital? Where should you really focus? What is the one thing that really costs you the most time or money each week? Because that is analog still. Or some people who say, oh, I don't need anything. I do everything in Excel. I do everything in my kind of paper sheets. But what do you really have to do manually? What does it cost you in terms of times? What can't you do because of that? And what is missing? And we need something affordable. You always have to also then look at how much money can you spend, because that problem costs you so much time or so much money per week. So what is the solution really worth for you? Because yes, one doesn't always want to put dollars in or euros in the hands, but if you are really transparent about what you're losing in terms of your work time or in terms of customer reach, you're sometimes surprised. So then we go with unlocking the existing tools, because I think, and I am there still included, I would say, we all know digital solutions, but we don't necessarily know what they can all do. The ENACT study showed that most AgriFood SMEs already use the basic digital tools. And for me, that are the basic digital tools like Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, with tools such as Forms, such as Google Sheets, etc., WhatsApp, chatbots such as Claude or ChatGPT. But do we really know what we can do with all the tools? I would say most of us can't. And in general, one says we use only around 10 to 20% from basic digital tools what they really could do. And digital tools are also always evolving. So WhatsApp business we are using, for example, for customer communication, for advice, or chat with friends, or doing informal staff messages. But do we use it for quick order forms? Do we use it for automated order confirmation? Do we use it for other things? I doubt it. Google Sheets. Perfect. We use it for any kind of data lists, inventory stuff, etc. We update it manually. There are 10 versions of Google Sheets, or Excel sheets flying around. Everybody has something different. But do we know how we can use it for a live inventory tracker, for automatic margin calculations, for shared order forms, for example? Google Forms, I would say probably 50% of us only know what Google Forms are, but one uses it for the occasional survey, like Lisa does at the moment. That's Google Forms. But do we use it for digital order intake that flows automatically into a spreadsheet, for a supplier quality log, for daily temperature records, which are not anymore on paper, or for customer satisfaction feedback? No, I don't think so. And even if you look at Microsoft Teams, for example, yes, we have now our video call on it, but do we really use it for organized file storage with version history, for task lists, for project management, for integrated forms, for collaborations? I mean, I know it from my old work. We certainly didn't. We used it for the basics, and there were a couple of one who really fully knew it, what we could do. So I think my first tip is pick a couple of the basic tools and really investigate what you can all do with it, because often that is sufficient to do simple digitalization efforts. And for me, one of the most powerful universal tools, which is still not fully understood by everybody, is the large language models, the LLMs, or also the chatbots. So you can use it for emails and communications. You can use it to even translate it into the different languages, be it in your case, Portuguese, Spanish, Lithuanian. You can use it if you are in research for grant applications, or for now you can also try to use it when you learn about the funding tomorrow, how Claude or ChatGPT could help you there. You can use it for document summaries, process documentation, requirement formulation, translation, and also for quality checks and SOP templates. And you can even use it more, because for me, it's also that I partly use a LLM as a sparring partner, as a brainstormer for planning big events, for example, organization of teams, for legal support, as a chatbot. So there's lots of things what you can do with it. So get familiarized with it. And when you use a LLM, always remember that you have to be precise when you ask him what to do. An LLM is nothing else than a prediction model. Yeah, so it doesn't think right away, but it learns, or it predicts the outcome based on what it got fed with in the past. So when you get results of LLMs, you have to be careful that there will be certain issues with it, like hallucinations, like biases, like other things. You always have to cross-check it. But if you ask a LLM to help you, draft your prompt, so what you put into the text, in a way that the LLM can work with it precisely. And a formula which might help you, and Lisa will also put it in the chat, is the RAFT formula. So tell the chatbot what is his role. So you can tell him, for example, imagine you're a consultant specialized in digital solution. Tell him what you want from him. What is the action? So that is the A of the RAFT. So tell him you want from him 3 suggestions of easy digital tools, which doesn't cost a lot, can talk to other tools and solve this problem. then tell him what format do you want. I want the output in English. I want a Word document. I want some bullets or whatever you want. And sometimes, and that is why it's kind of for me not necessarily to use the T always in the raft, say what is the tonality. And with those simple steps, I think you really can use the potential of a LLM way more. And don't worry which of the language models you should pick. I know there are plenty of it, and I don't have everything on this chart. You have, of course, ChatGPT, which everybody knows. You have Copilot, which many of you might have if they have a Microsoft license. You have Claude from Anthropic, which was now in the news a lot because they were the first ones who told the US government, no, we don't want to do what you ask us for. And we have EU-based version like Mistral, but also now increasingly German startups. And I would say there's not a huge difference between the models apart from where they are based and the amount of privacy. If you have very sensitive data, then it's always better to go with the EU version. EU-based version, because they, of course, have to adhere to EU law and the data stays in Europe. But often also a Copilot or a Claude is really good. And if you pay for the enterprise versions anyway, the data privacy should be ensured. And why I say it doesn't matter what you pick is because they're catching up all the time. I mean, one is at the moment better than the other one, but the others will kind of catch up. So just pick one, use it daily and master it. And what I did, for example, a couple of months ago, when I first kind of digged into the different LLMs, is that I just imagined one task or for the LLMs, and I tried it out with 3 different ones and then said, with what LLM do I feel more comfortable? Because the results per se weren't different, but just the way how to get there were different, and there was a different level of transparency what they did. And so it's about personal preferences as well. And I think here we should pause a little bit and open up to questions, because I think that could be quite a bit for people. So if you have a question, just speak out and don't use the chat, just unmute you and ask it. Okay, so either we have a brilliant, capable audience for digitalization, or we are just very shy. I mean, there are further universal tools which are ready to use and which don't require any setup. I mean, internal communications, it can be WhatsApp Business, which is free. It can be Telegram Business. It can be others. For document management, you will know the versions, and there also a lot is free. Forms and data collection, we already mentioned it. Google Forms and Microsoft Forms are quite powerful. Spreadsheet, Google Sheets. Simple project management, Isabella mentioned it. So they use, for example, Trello, but there are also other ones which are there for free. Design and communications. The easiest one is ChatGPT, I would say, if you use it anyway, but then, of course, more specialized is Canva. But there's also for images, especially Nana Bananas. For videos, there's Google Veo. For audio, there's 11 labs. And don't worry, Lisa will also put that in the chat, that you know it. QR codes for traceability, you can get it really easy nowadays for free in the internet. It's also good if you have some events you want to advertise and just need people to then connect to it. translation, yes, you can do it with the LLMs, but for me, the most powerful is DeepL. That's the best one, and it's also good if you need to translate documents, because the LLMs, if you upload documents which you want to have translated, for example, PowerPoints, the LLMs sometimes mess up your formatting. And DeepL is way better in that, for example. And also the quality, I mean, DeepL is just a go-to for translating. And video conferencing, you know it yourself. And apart from that, there are cool other tools. So if we talk about workflow automation, for example, there's Zapier and N8N, which you can try out. And coding, I don't think you will need it, but you could think about coding a website yourself or whatever. And there, for example, Lovable and Bold are quite good. And I don't want you to now try it out all, but that you at least know what is out there and that you can try to use some of those tools and see if it's for you. And also, please be aware, it's now how do you call it? It's now just one temporary look at the tools. There are so many tools coming up. And in the end, my conviction is that in the medium term, most of the special tools will be incorporated in the LLMs. So that this will be your one go-to place. And if we talk about integration, then of course, you have in the end 2 platforms already out there, which can offer quite a lot, which is one's the Google Workspace universe and one's the Microsoft 365 universe. So for example, Microsoft has Outlooks, has Teams, has OneDrive, has Copilot as an LLM, Google also a lot. And so there you can already have that all integrated and that the single things also speak to each other. And while Microsoft is really the thing for bigger businesses, Google, especially for small teams, is, I think, an ecosystem which works extremely well. Okay. So I hope I haven't killed you now with LLMs and other tools and platforms. Perhaps another quick call. Are there questions out there to those tools? No? Perfect. Then we go into the next session, exploring advanced tools. And what is for me advanced tools? That is really, if you remember when we looked at emerging traditionalists and leaders, in the traditionalist area, we saw they know the basic tools quite well, but what they are not so good yet is in e-commerce capabilities and also in terms of ERP systems. So that is what I understand as advanced tools, and that is where we won't go into depth, but just give you a little bit of an outlook. So online visibility and also commercial capability is, I think, something what is important to almost every player in the agri-food chain, not just to retailers. Doesn't matter if it's a farmer selling direct, it doesn't matter if it's a producer reaching out to new buyers, Doesn't matter if it's a logistic company, which want to have more clients, be it regional or not regional. And everybody of those players have the same problem. How can we be found? How can we kind of convey that we have a credible and attractive offer? And how do we see if we need e-commerce tools, and how do we pick the right tool? Nevertheless, before you engage in digital marketing or e-commerce, I think it's important to have also here a couple of prerequisites. Because before you invest into time and perhaps also money, you have to make sure that you have a clean product catalog with consistent names and prices. Because in the end, if you don't have that, you don't need a marketplace, you don't need an e-commerce platform, a web shop. The customers need to be able to find a good product catalog. You need at least one good photo per product and service, because without good online images, you don't have a conversion. Quite simple. A shitty online experience is worse than no appearance at all. You have to have a clear one-sentence description about the differentiator. We sell vegetables is invisible. Seasonal, organic vegetables harvested every day, delivered within a radius of 45 kilometers is something what is more of a differentiator. And if you decide to be online, you have to have somebody who can respond to inquiries within a short amount of time. It doesn't need to be 24 hours, but it needs to be a reasonable time, because unanswered messages just damage your reputation. So if you don't have time for it, better don't do it. And last but not least, you have to have, of course, a GDPR compliant customer list. Sending unsolicited commercial emails is a legal violation in the EU. So you have to build the list correctly from the start for the first contact. And if you are really a small agri-food player, then a website shouldn't be your highest priority first step, because you need to host it somewhere. You need to have somebody who updates it also in terms of content. Yes, you can build it yourself with digital tools, but also there you need to have time to learn it. Often a well-maintained Google business profile combined with an active WhatsApp business account is enough to reach customers. So build this first. And then in terms of e-commerce, lots of people are saying, oh, we need to have e-commerce. It's really, really important for us. Challenge you on that. Does it work with your products? Is it okay if you have produce which is perishable? It's already more difficult. Be sure that if you publish prices online, they are always out there. They are visible to everybody, also to your competitors. So you have a very well thought through pricing strategy. If you decide not to do an own web shop, but go to a marketplace, be aware that this costs you. Typically, commissions are 10 to 25%. You know it also from other parts of everyday life. So, for example, if you book a Uber or if you go to Booking, that's also commissions of 25%. Be aware that if you have an online shop, that means also that you need to have the right data out there all the time. So if your online shop shows wrong prices, if you can't deliver or don't state that you can't deliver because you're currently out of stock, you will lose trust. And then last but not least, it's also that if you have certain social media pages and if you are not active in maintaining it, usually it signals that the business may be inactive. So that, as I said, can really harm your reputation as well. And if you decide to build something by yourself, a web shop, and also have e-commerce capabilities with it, then an easy thing is, for example, the Shopify starter. So, example of a small honey producer. I mean, honey is a little bit easier than other produce because it's not perishable. He set up a Shopify starter web shop in only one afternoon. And within a couple of months, already almost half of the sales came from their home region via this web shop. Customers found them on Google, went to the web shop, ordered it. And funnily enough, the challenge he then had was not a technical one. How can I get the web shop out there? But it's addressing all the languages out there. So making sure that everybody could understand everything. So of course, in Belgium, it's a problem because there are so many languages which you have to cater. But that was something what he did then, and he used not DeepL, but then Claude, but that worked also fine. So investment was almost nothing for that one. Good. So we talked a little bit about the web presence now. Start small, only use a web page when you really need it. Be aware that you can update it. Be aware that it always have to be up to date. We talked about e-commerce capabilities. It's not always necessary. And if you use it, then be sure how you want to do it. Do you want to do e-commerce really via a platform? Do you want to do e-commerce via different ways, like ordering via WhatsApp? Do you want to build your own e-commerce website? And what we are going now into is, when does it make sense to have an enterprise resource planning or a connection of different systems? And that's what Christina mentioned before, that one of the things she came up with is that there was always this question, how can we connect different systems, that we don't have to call our suppliers or our warehouse, what is the status of the stocks? And that is usually what enterprise resource planning tools are for. They're connecting different systems and make sure that information flows from one to another. And what are typical signals that you need an ERP system? And I would argue most SMEs don't use an ERP system. So as I said, ERP systems are connecting different business functions. So orders, inventories, production, invoicing. And you have it all in one place and it's all connected. But you only need an ERP system really if you have an operational complexity. If you have tons of regulatory and compliance pressure, that you really have to have the data in one area and easily accessible all the time. That it's important for supply chain coordination because you have a complicated supply chain. Or if you have tons of integration pain, for example. And so if you have that, then I would really consider investing into an ERP system. And that doesn't need to be an expensive SAP kind of solution that's totally over-engineered for small and medium-sized companies. There are smaller, easier off-the-shelf tools available. Yeah, and so, for example, in Lithuania, there was an organic processing cooperative, which said, okay, for us, it's important to combine order stocks and invoicing and deliveries. Yeah, we need to have that automatically, that the system speaks to each other. And what they chose is an off-the-shelf software, which is called Odoo. Hired a local IT student and said, hey, I give you a limited amount of money so that you install it. And within 2 months, the stock errors really dropped near to zero. Didn't cost almost anything, but again, the hard part was cleaning up the data before the migration. And that cleanup of data that lasted way longer than installing the ERP system. So here you have a couple of examples for ERP solutions. As I said, I would not touch SAP for SMEs. It's way too big and too expensive in comparison to Vicinity or Odoo. Also, Microsoft Dynamics I wouldn't touch because it really needs heavy customization. But if you really need an ERP and challenge you on that, if you can't solve some of the communication with other tools, then I would probably go to Odoo or Vicinity. It doesn't matter what you want to buy or choose in terms of digital solutions. So that is not for ERP, but it's for any kind of digital tool you want to use. Before you decide, always ask yourself 5 questions because they're important for you. Does the tool export data in a standard format? Does it have documented AP or SAP or make integration? Does it have or does it use the interfaces which are most common for your industry? Does it use standard identifiers? Is it GDPR compliant? And is it either a EU data resident or are there at least contract terms which ensure adequate privacy, and can multiple users access it with different permission levels? And I think if one of those questions gets answered with a no, then probably this tool isn't the right one to solve your problems. And why I say that is, if you remember, before we had the different levels of integration. And while I said it's okay that at one stage we go to silo tools or tools who speak to each other within an organization, at some stage we have to also go deeper. And it's way more expensive than...
But like 100 is not nothing for like, this is what you got.
Hello? No, I think that wasn't a question. It was just some telephone call. So, and why I say those 5 questions are important is because they ensure interoperability, they ensure communication, and they ensure that we are compliant with the laws and have the appropriate data security
You
also in there.
add your mailing thing for disorder either.
I think, might it be that Tracy is, so I will just mute her. I think that was Tracy. Good. And I think also a practical example why this is important. So there was a jam producer in Belgium who looked what is out there in terms of inventory apps. There was a long list. Basically, they were not so familiar with it. They decided for a really well-reviewed app, cost limited amount of money, but after a couple of months, they wanted to integrate it. They wanted to integrate it to the new web shop, but they had no way to integrate it because the app didn't have an AP and no Zapier integration. And that means there was not an automatic communication between the two tools possible. So what they had to do is they had to abandon the app. They lost 6 months of stock history, and they needed to start all over again with a different tool. And there they chose Odoo because that kind of fulfilled all the 5 questions above. So basically what they had is more work, loss of 6 months, and they spent money for something what they would have had also for free out there. So with that, I think we had the small excursion to ERP, and we go more into the supply chain needs. But I think really relevant are the supply chain needs only if we have participants from those 2 steps of the supply chain. Otherwise, I would say have a read through it once you get the documents. So do we have anyone here from the logistics area or where logistic is a major part of the business? A raise of hands? Nobody?
No, it doesn't seem.
Do we have here anybody from food production and processing? No? Okay.
No, it doesn't.
Then I would say to also ensure that you can ask some questions or perhaps have a longer pause, we skip that chapter. It seems to be not so relevant for this audience. You will be able to read it. And what basically it shows, and it shows that in this in the presentation, what will be shared with you in the backup also for all other parts of the value chain. It shows always for each step of the value chain, what are the big specific needs, what is the problem, and what are possible low-cost solutions. Gives you a little bit of an idea. So you can have it for each part of the value chain, and it will be easily available for you in the handout. With that, we come to a quite interesting topic, cybersecurity and data security. It's also something where there was a lot of activity. And you might say data security and cybersecurity, that's nothing for me, that only bigger companies need to deal with. And I would say definitely no, especially not for the agri-food sector, because agri-food belongs often to the critical infrastructure. And when ENACT was carrying out the research, what is the knowledge in terms of cybersecurity? The needs assessment showed that cybersecurity is one of the 2 most critical gaps apart from e-commerce capabilities. So there we had an average maturity of 3 out of 5. And the crucial point was not so much the awareness. The crucial point was, again, the routine, meaning how do we institutionalize it? How do we make it a daily routine? What is the daily practice for security hygiene? And what I want to speak about is not in detail what is, for example, the AI Digital Act in Europe, what is NIS2. I think that we don't necessarily need to know now at this stage. For me, it's way easier to talk about 8 simple cyber hygiene pillars which you should use, and those address already many of the requirements which come from those 2 acts. So I think the first one is passwords and multi-factor authentication. I mean, everybody of us knows that the passwords should be strong, and they know also that there exists at least a two-factor authentication. But good practice really looks like never reuse passwords, install a password manager for the whole team, and don't use only two-factor authentication, use multiple factor authentication, and that not only on one thing, but on email, on cloud storage, on banking, or admin accounts. And there are free or low-cost tools available. The second pillar is backups, tested backups with restore drills. Everybody knows how important backups are. How good are we in really doing them? I mean, even I am not perfect, I must say. And I remember plenty of days when I really got frustrated because I didn't do the extra backup and I couldn't get my data back and I lost half a day of work or something like that. So I think it's not only about the awareness of doing it, but really scheduling quarterly restore tests. So do a fire drill, see if everybody did the backup, and if you can restore it, because an untested backup is not really, it's not a backup. I mean, if you don't know whether it works or not, you can really use a lot. Patch management cadence. That means automatic updates should be installed for the operating systems, browser, business apps. Again, there needs to be a person who checks it. Role-based access control. Not everybody needs the same access rights, and not everybody needs to be an admin. Really think about who in your organization can access what. It doesn't matter if it's your calendar, if it's Teams, files and folder structures, if it's for bigger organizations, SAP. This role definition is really crucial. And I think it's really crucial also to remove that access immediately once a person leaves. And again, somebody needs to be responsible for that. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Phishing awareness. I mean, we all know that emails get more and more sophisticated, trying to get information from you, trying to get login data from you, trying to kind of induce, for example, transactions which you shouldn't do. Never click a link. Always hover over it once you get it. It's also with emails. You have an email which says it's basically, for example, from a tax authority in your country. But when you hover over it, you see that it's a completely different email address. It can't be. So do that always as a sanity check. And I think when you have concerns, rather call somebody in the organization or call the organization, which it should be. That should be a rule of thumb. And I think one shouldn't be one shouldn't feel bad of sometimes wanting to try it out or having tried it out. It's a matter of routine or exercise. So good things are also like simple phishing quizzes where you can teach people to look out for certain things. Even in our organization, I think there was a wrong transaction being made because a phishing email was so well done. There needs to be a basic incident response plan, and that is also incorporated, I think, as well as in the AI Digital Act, as well as NIS2. Who do you call if you're hacked? What should you do when you're hacked? And that should be written down and not only in your head. Know what the GDPR basic are. In Europe, customer data may only be stored and processed with consent. Use free privacy policy generators and cookie banner tools, and never ever enter sensitive data like customer data or employee data into public large language models. If you want to sanitize data, there's quite a cool tool out there which is called Nana AI. So Lisa's putting it in the chat as well, which helps you then to really get it sanitized. But really, LLMs are great, but certain data doesn't belong into an LLM. And EU-based cloud storage, I mean, that is a preference basically for businesses with sensitive business data because they fall under the EU data protection law. But if you do proper data hygiene, then all the other tools also work. So don't worry about that. And I mean, certain US-based providers such as Anthropic, they have stronger privacy rules imposed on themselves because that's a differentiator. So again, not rocket science, but 8 simple rules, I think, to make your life easier and make sure you're compliant in the new world of digital solutions and yeah, also cyber criminality. And with that, we're not there yet at the end because I would like to try that we do one exercise. You heard now quite a lot. I hope you learned also quite a bit for yourself. And attending a training doesn't really do a lot, but what you really have to do and to try is putting what you learned into action and then really seeing what you can do and what you perhaps need to understand more. So that's an easy template also for seeing what you can do in terms of digitalization. So feel free to use it also at different times in your organization. What I would like to do is now really think about where do you want to use digitalization predominantly, operational efficiency, innovation, cooperation. Then state what your main problem is, what it costs you in terms of hours or in terms of money, what the consequence is, what you need in terms of digital tools or support. Are your processes mapped and data in order? Yes, or you need to do something first? And what tool would you try to first try out? And I think then the most important thing is get going. So what will be your one first concrete step this week you want to do? And I would say don't take 3 minutes because it will require a little bit more thinking. Really use the time now because you won't do it thereafter in your busy workday. So you have now time to do it, take advantage of it. And hopefully we have then 1 or 2 people who want to share what they came up with. So I would say in 6 minutes, we come back here and see if we have people who want to share what their concrete first step is this week. and where they want to focus on. Okay, 2 more minutes to go. Good. So who wants to share what his or her first concrete step this week is? And if we still need a little bit of time, I think I can start with something which I wanted to do for a long time, but I haven't done it. I think doing research on potential customers or competitors, etc., is extremely time consuming. I don't have to do it every day, but I would say I do it regularly every week. And one can spend an awful time on it, and then also compiling it, especially more into the essence. So what I want to do is I'm using Claude, not ChatGPT or others, because I like personally most how Claude is structured. And in Claude, there's a possibility of doing projects for recurring topics where you brief them quite precisely what you want. And I want now really to try that out, that I set up the projects folder for market research tasks in such a way that always the same structure is getting done from Claude, and that I also get the same output in a template for those either customers or competitors. And what is quite cool, and I haven't done it so often, is that you can then also choose what you want. If you want to have a normal web research, or if you want to have a deep research. And I want to also compare how really the output is from the normal web research, or when you click into the more details, how the deep research output then looks like, so that I can determine for myself what is the better angle. And that I will do by Saturday. So who else wants to share? Because for us, of course, it's great also to see what others are thinking about.
Yeah, I think that Jonas in the chat wrote something. Maybe we can check his case as well.
Yeah, good day, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jonas. Pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So I can say in short that it's a challenge for me because I work in the Institute of Economy Development, and we have this data calculation to make, because it's like one of the indicators for the institutions to apply for the evaluation of the effectiveness of institution. And it's like quite challenge, quite huge evaluation process. And in this process, I have like the task to count how many our PhD students have participated in exact event, because we have like many events, and also we have like also we are sharing a lot of events of other institutions, and it's really challenging to, after these events, to find out what is the feedback of PhD students. Because anyway, for us, it's important how many our students, we are very active or we are passive. And anyway, it's like the studying process, because we have to rise their competition. And during this process, it's really important to get to some events like during the year. But actually, it's happening not very often, and even to collect the data, it's really challenging. And actually, I do not have idea how to make it more simple, really.
So that are online events, or what are that?
It's it can be online, it can be in live, and many, yeah, sometimes we can be combined, but you know, it's one situation when you participate by yourself in these events, but it's like impossible to participate in them all. So you cannot be at the same time like students, and you just have to trust their way in these events or not. But of course, sometimes it's like answers zero, total zero.
But you
So
can use more digital tools also to track attendance and also kind of get feedback. So, for example, even in a physical situation, you can use QR codes that people log in. We had it, for example, for some webinars now, but it doesn't matter. So you have a QR code that everybody signs in basically at the beginning, be it in a virtual or in a physical setting. And then the engagement you can also test with a simple survey, and then you see how many respond to a survey or also what the feedback is.
yes, it's really works if this event is organized by our institute, but
Yeah.
if it's like a broad event somewhere in other country, so it's like no chances at all to do that. Like,
That's a little bit like again with a communication across organizations. If you don't have the same rules, it's impossible. Yeah. So you have to define what is important for everybody and have one common standard. Otherwise, as you said, across countries or organizations, it's difficult.
yeah, but yeah, you have given good idea that maybe it's necessary to create like common communication rules about the feedback. And I mean that it should be like really must thing to do for students, like to we have read these rules and also to agree. And after that, it would be like obligation for them. So maybe, yeah, it can help. One of the possible ways.
I mean, if it's for you important to measure it, then I would definitely spend time on seeing how this can be done, no? Because in the end, it's also lots of resources, lots of effort flying into it. And so it's important to see also how the uptake is and what can be improved.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thank you. I got like an idea from you now.
Thanks,
Thank-
Jonas.
You're welcome.
Somebody else? Lisa, do we have?
Isabel and Mario had also some cases in the chat if we have time, so we could
Yes, I
maybe
think we
with
can
them, yeah.
still do that. Isabel, do you want? Or Mario?
It's not that a big kind of a big case, but we just agreed upon that we really want to look into details concerning our communication tools. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
No,
And
that
we would love
helps.
to find a easy kind of one-stop shop solution for all our needs. But I think we have first to look at our needs and then like take a look at the tools. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to see what really makes most sense. So a friend of mine, she's using it to digital tools to also at least draft and automate a little bit her newsletters for customer communication, which works out quite well. I mean, it needs a human touch, of course, also a check, but it does eliminate quite a lot of manual work.
Yeah.
Mario?
It was good.
Sorry. No,
It was a good
Isabel.
reminder to stick with the tools once you have found a good tool, because it's a bit of concerning when there are always new tools every day, new tools, and you think, do I have the right tool? So should I switch? So choose the right one, think about it well, and then stick to the tool. It was a really good advice for us too. Thank you.
Thank you. No, it was for me amazing because there are plenty of tools which you can also use for PowerPoints. But nowadays, even Claude has now a PowerPoint design app for so it's easier to just use it. It lasted a little bit more time till they had it, but now it's integrated and it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Mario?
Hello, good morning. So only to say something. So we are a vocational school and we have two technological centers here in a small place, a rural place called Alvito in the south of Portugal.
Yeah.
All the day we use IT or some tools like Microsoft. What else? The challenge is to pass that knowledge to the students, put them to using these tools. It's the challenge. But in all the days we use that tools, but the students sometimes don't use that tools correctly. That's the challenge to us at this moment.
I mean, that is often the challenge, and I think taking your pupils or students, your customers, your organization with you and really understanding is a challenge. And that's why I say if you use tools, they're only as good as the people who need to use it. And so one really needs to spend also time in explaining what the tools do, how to use it. And nobody changes really and is open to something new unless he sees the benefit for him.
Yes.
So you have to make very good communication, what is in for the single person.
Yes.
And then he will try it out.
And for the trainers, it's a challenge to keep up with that development every day with new tools, new of AI, other things. It's very difficult to keep up with all these tools and to pass. It's difficult.
The good thing is, I would say you don't need to know everything. I mean, there are experts enough out there. And for example, one thing which is really good, and Lisa will also send it in the chat, there is basically AI Factory, which is a European project, which is really aimed at raising the digital capabilities of SMEs. And they are present in most European countries. In the case of Portugal, it's covered by an AI factory in Spain. So they are responsible for Spain and Portugal. Austria has their own one. I think Lithuania has their own one. And I think Belgium was covered by Germany. And they offer trainings. Very good trainings. I attended once one because I just wanted to see how it is. They also do consultant support. They also give advices on tools, are available for legal and ethical questions. So that is a really good go-to place for SMEs, which will be available at least for the next 1.5 to 2 years, as far as I know.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. With that, I think we are over the time. You have in the deck also the 7 takeaways for me. You might have others, but for me, it's really you have more digital tools which you use than you think, but you use only a fraction of their potential. So really understand what they can do for you. Digitalization starts with process clarity and clean data, not with the tools, even if the tools are sexy. Use the free AI tools and especially the LLMs as the single highest leverage entry point because they can do a lot and they will be able to do more and more. going online is simpler than you think, and everybody of us can nowadays program a website in even 15 minutes. We tried it out. So with tools like Lovable, etc., it's possible. Don't pay for a tool straight away. Always ask the 5 questions, please. And if there is one no, don't do it. And cybersecurity needs to be a routine. And always think there's one problem, one requirement, and one first step. You don't have to do everything at the same time. Just start and then repeat. I hope you got something out of it today. I like that we had the interaction at the end, so thanks for that. That's always extremely valuable. And if you have any questions, you have my details, and ENACT will share anyway the presentation and also the recording. And with that, I would say a happy break for you.